We have some new information in the mass shooting in West Texas that left 7 people dead and 22 others wounded. Investigators say the gunman was fired from his job at a trucking company Saturday and made, quote, rambling calls to 911 and the FBI just before the rampage. Police say 36-year-old Seth Aator was then stopped by state troopers in Midland for not signaling a lane change. The gunman then allegedly opened fire with an assault-style rifle and took off, firing randomly at cars and pedestrians for 10 miles.
He was on a long spiral of going down.
Officials sharing an update on the deadly mass shooting in West Texas. The moving massacre between the cities of Odessa and Midland started after a routine traffic stop Saturday afternoon. A driver pulled over by state troopers for failing to use a turn signal, fired an AR-style rifle at officers before speeding away, shooting indiscriminately, then ditching his vehicle, hijacking a U.S. postal van and killing the postal worker before the gunman was shot dead by police. Authorities now revealing the shooter was fired from his job the morning of the bloodshed, and both he and his employer called 911.
Basically, they were complaining on each other because they had a disagreement over the fire. He leaves his employers before our officers get there.
Police say the traffic stop that followed was a coincidence. The gunman also called the FBI.
He called the national tip line about 15 minutes before his encounter with the troopers. It was, frankly, rambling statements about some of the atrocities that he felt that he had gone through. He did not make a threat. After the phone call, we initiated all of our law enforcement procedures.
Before the police update, the New York Times reporting the shooter, a 36-year-old white man, had been fired from his trucking job just a few hours before leading police on a high-speed shooting rampage. Investigators say they completed the search of the gunman's home Sunday.
It's a very strange residence. It's very small. I can tell you the conditions reflect what we believe his mental state was.
At one point, he hijacked a mail van, killing a 29-year-old postal worker from Granderos. Her twin sister was on the phone with her during the attack.
She was screaming for help. I did my best to go help her, but I couldn't get there on time.
Police eventually cornered the gunman outside a movie theater in Odessa, where he was gunned down in a parking lot.
Help is pouring in. According to the Midland Reporter Telegram, at least 7 GoFundMe accounts created for victims collectively raised more than $280,000 from more than 5,000 donors across the world in less than a day. And those numbers are climbing. Included in that, the campaign to help one of the youngest victims, 17-month-old Anderson Davis, was shot in the face. The campaign to help the child, it has brought in roughly $200,000 and still going strong. Texas Governor Greg Abbott shared an update from her family after getting a text from the girl's mother.
She said, quote, "Thank you all for praying. This is all of our worst nightmare. But thank God she's alive and relatively well." She goes on to say that toddlers are funny because they can get shot but still want to run around and play.
Good afternoon. We scheduled this press conference because we thought that it's important to update our community on the progress of the investigation, number one, and where we're at this point, what we know. So to start this update, we'll add that we had an additional victim overnight. It was a 70-year-old female who had been struck by shrapnel while in her car. She took herself to the hospital and she was treated and released. So that's good news. Of the multiple crime scenes that everyone was working yesterday, we are down to 2. So that's also good news. With that being said, I have to again, thank all the local law enforcement, the state officials and the federal officials that came. The resources that have been made available to us is just astronomical and just absolutely appreciated. We also appreciate all the thoughts and prayers from our West Texas community. from the state of Texas and from the United States. Those thoughts and prayers have been pouring in, and those are much appreciated and much needed. I want to go over a short sequence of events for you. A few additional facts that we've learned. So Saturday morning, our suspect went to work at Journey Oilfield Services. He was there for a short time and was terminated by his employer. Right after that firing, he called 911, Odessa Police Department's 911, and so did his employer. And basically they were complaining on each other because they had a disagreement over the firing. He then leaves employment. He leaves his employers before our officers get there. At some point in that, let me back up, not at some point, but a short time before he makes contact with the DPS trooper, he actually calls the FBI national tip line, but makes no threats of any type of violence. The DPS trooper contacts him not knowing any of this and attempts to make a traffic stop for a traffic violation. Again, there's no such thing as a routine traffic stop. The subject then proceeds west on I-20. While on I-20, shooting at innocent civilians, creating victims. He enters the city of Odessa and makes his way to 42nd Street here in Odessa, and again shoots multiple civilians, creating victims. In the area of the 3800 block of North Adams, North Dixie, he encounters a postal employee in a postal vehicle and hijacks that vehicle and creates a casualty there. He then continued, let me back up again. At that point is when the vehicle he was in was a gold-colored sedan. He dumps that vehicle at that point and takes the mail truck. This is not a typical mail truck that you're thinking about that you see. It's a white minivan is what it is. Okay. He takes that vehicle and continues his shooting spree until he is finally contacted at the Synergy by multiple law enforcement agencies. An exchange of gunfire does ensue, and the threat is eliminated at that point. Please understand that this has been a tremendous collaborative effort. The initial response, number one, by several law enforcement agencies, and obviously you see the number of local, state, and federal agencies here now, and that's, again, awesome.